Welcome to the February Business Insights Online Network interview. This month, Jill Smith will be chairing a Q&A debate with Ian Mean, OBE, and Philip McLaughlin about Together Gloucestershire. The County of Gloucestershire could see an additional annual investment of £500,000 by localising procurement by just a further 5%. Research from Renishaw and the Cirencester Chamber of Commerce estimates that in Gloucestershire, goods and services procured within 30 miles of deployment is 15% of the total procurement, about 11.03 billion per annum. If the county's procurement reaches an increase of 5% in local procurement, then we could see an annual increased investment into the county of £550.5 billion. So I'll now hand over, following that intro, to Jill, Ian and Philip for what should be a fascinating session. And I've got it timed for about half an hour, and I'll give you an alert with 5 minutes to go.
Ian has to leave at 2:45, so.
Okay, in that case, 20 minutes.
So welcome Ian and Philip. Ian, do you just want to quickly introduce us, just because we're recording this piece, so just give people context for the recording? That would be great.
Yes, I'm Ian Mean. I'm Director of Business West in Gloucestershire and Vice Chair of GFIRST LEP. I'm also heavily involved with the health service. I chair 10 hospital trusts for organ donation, and I'm particularly interested in apprenticeships, young people.
Ian. Philip.
Okay, as you heard earlier, I work with Jasmine Embroidery and Print. In this case, I am the lead with regard to the TG, Together Gloucester, which the idea effectively is to bring more business to Gloucestershire.
So that's a great intro. So leading us straight into, so really what's the vision and the purpose of the Together Gloucestershire project for those that don't know about it?
Okay, so the concept was generated by, sorry about this. For some reason, everybody wants to get hold of me. Typical Sons Law. So the actual idea concept came from Cheltenham, Cirencester Chambers and the SFB or the FSB, and their idea was to maintain what I call the circular pound within Gloucestershire. And the vision behind that was to create a joined up solution for the large public and private sector companies to bring the SMEs and the MSMEs together. And what that would generate effectively would be more jobs for local people, more cash in the local economy, a reduction in the length of supply chain, also adding security, particularly under the current circumstances, and more investment in the local economy. But it requires active participation from both sides and both parties.
And so, Ian, from with your Business West and GFIRST LEP hat on, because I know you wear a lot of hats, where do you see the project actually delivering the most value into the county, and therefore how important is it?
Well, first of all, it's very important, Jill. I think it is unique in this country, but I have to revert to Adam for any detail on that. But I think the key, to me, the key market is our SMEs. We've just got under 30,000 SMEs in Gloucestershire.
Wow.
So that's the key market. Give you an example. I was at the last meeting of the GFIRST LEP board yesterday, talking to a senior engineer on the board from Renishaw. I said I was coming to this today, and she said to me, it's not just the first supplier. You need a whole chain. So it could be someone like Renishaw they probably need perhaps 6 suppliers in a sector. So this is a massive situation. And for me, I've looked at all the detail. You've done a really good initial business plan. Great work by Adam, particularly I think here. But I think what is now required is to look at all the district councils in Gloucestershire and the county council. Remember, we've got 6 district councils and a county council. There's a lot of changes going to be made. There's going to be an economic growth board, which will replace the LEP board that I'm on. And I think there's a good opportunity now to talk to each of these district councils and give them some ownership, Jill. That's what people want. You know, the money is not the situation, although councils are very cash-strapped. It's giving them a bit of ownership. For instance, I'm on the Forest Economic Partnership Board, and we're getting Adam's coming down to talk to us on March 6th. In the forest, I was recently talking to someone who owned a little engineering firm. I went to see them. They actually do work for McLaughlin Racing.
Oh my goodness.
And he said he couldn't get into some of the bigger firms like Renishaw. That's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're working at that level. So this sort of plan is very innovative, but I think you've got to be really clear where you're going in the first place. The plans look great, the idea is great, but you've got to get buy-in from particularly those local councils.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Philip, feeding on from what Ian's just saying, so one of the key parts of the project clearly is the deliverables. So what are the deliverables coming out of the project that everybody should be aware of?
The deliverables that we have, so effectively there is a database being built. It's almost ready, which will be for both sides, for everybody within Gloucester who signed up to see what's available to them. There'll also be a business pledge, which will sort of clear the way for those SMEs who sign up to it, would have to agree to the terms and conditions, for want of a better word, which will sort of pre-clear them for what the larger organisations like the Renishaws, the Spiraxes, the St. James's Places are looking for. And they're sort of the two key parts. The other part would be that someone has to go out and get the larger companies to come on board, which is what I've been tasked with from both the steering and the working group. And effectively is a meet and greet, explain to them what the pros and cons are, invite them on board. But the reality is it's not a case of that they just sign up and it looks good for the resume. They have to actually be part of it. So they must participate. Otherwise, we'll tell them we don't really want them. And another idea to take that forward, but I'm going on from what Ian said, is the part of the idea as well would be that we would have specific events in specific companies. So going back to the gentleman from McLaren, he would be an invite to see. So therefore it would get over the barrier there, but it would be more focused on what they're looking for within the database, and effectively the door would be opened.
Yeah, because I think one of the things we had a TG meeting the other week, and one of the things that we said was that, you know, if you're Renishaws, then you're probably not going to be buying your really, really high spec engineering equipment from Gloucestershire, but you probably are going to buy your window cleaning from Gloucestershire, you know, so it's matching that. What can the big companies realistically do locally that then local suppliers can actually match and deliver? So if we're thinking about the deliverables then, so what should the SMEs and MSMEs that are looking to sign up with TG not take for granted? Weird, you know what I'm trying to say?
yeah, they're not guaranteed a seat at the table, no. Also what we're going to do is provide training, so to help people to understand what the tenders are, what the expectations are, and what the expectation of the client will be. Part of having done the business pledge will sort of smooth that over. But the reality is that the SMEs and the MSMEs, I know that being one, we take a view that, well, why should we bother going after the big guys? You know, they just have it all set up. But I believe this is a different thing. And I believe this is going to create the opportunity to allow companies like ourselves on this call to gain access to these larger organisations. We just need more of them.
And Ian, from a county point of view, do you see there being a benefit to the county in, you know, as the smaller businesses and MSMEs and the medium start looking at, you know, that pledge and what they're committing to and what the larger suppliers expect, you know, in terms of ESG, carbon footprint, everything? Do you think that actually helps improve all the businesses in the county because it brings them all up a notch? And does that help things?
Total. The word is growth, isn't it? It's the government's word. It's our word. We've got to grow. We're not going to grow unless we have, bluntly, more people in the workplace. That's probably our single biggest issue at the moment. This will mean there's going to be more communication between small companies, medium companies and larger companies. That's going to grow. I take the point here about training and whatever. It's going to need SMEs to really adopt this properly. not assume someone else is going to do the work. And I think you've got to be really careful. I've looked at all the background and, you know, this is a great project, but be very careful you don't create a machine that's too unwieldy, because that means money. What you've got at the moment, it seems to me, is money for administration. You're going to be quite careful when you deal with local councils what money is being spent.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, I think it's important. I agree with everything you're doing, but be careful it doesn't get too big in terms of the responsibilities that you will have. And that's why I think the new Economic Growth Board, which will be aligned to the new economic strategy published sort of at the end of April, there's a good opportunity for this to go forward to be one of the ideas that they would consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think getting back to your point about the local councils, when we had Forest and Dean Council, Cotswold District, and I think Gloucestershire County are also now involved. So we're getting there with the different councils. Philip, in terms of where Together Gloucestershire sits in this process, how can the SMEs best get involved? Because we know this is going to take time. You know, this is not suddenly going to get delivered, you know, in the next couple of months. It's a strategic project. It's therefore got a lead time on it. But Ian said we need people to be involved. So how do best SMEs and MSCs get on board with this and really help drive it and get actively involved rather than sitting and waiting for it to happen?
Well, one of the things they could do is come to the business show at the end of the month, because we will be on stage having a similar discussion. But afterwards, there will be a forum afterwards where everybody, it'll be an open invite where people can get together and give their points of view, what they'd like to see and how they'd like to see it operate. Because currently in the background, that's what's happening with the larger organisations, the Renishaws and the Spirexes. We're sitting down with them to find out what do they want, how do they want it, what do they want to see, what do they expect. So the same principles will apply to the SMEs and the MSMEs. And that's sort of where we're leading. So that basically my first point would be go to the show at the end of the month. We do have a database that's been set up, and therefore if people register, I don't have the email off the top of my head or where to register, but very shortly there will be an opportunity to register your interest and to sign up to the database. I'm going to pull in Adam here for a bit of help, if he hasn't gone to sleep or gone for a bacon sandwich.
Yeah, sorry.
He hasn't gone for a bacon roll.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody wants to register, certainly for Together Gloucestershire, the best way to do is go to our website, togethergloucestershire.co.uk. I've put a link in our chat thing, and then you can register on there for more information. So we're slowly pumping out little bits through emails and doing regular meetings. So yeah, it's probably the best way of doing it.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Ian, go.
Something just on that point. I was interested in the material that Adam sent me. I'm an ex-Daily Mail man, and the word you use a lot on the Daily Mail is humanising the story.
All right.
And humanising the story, I looked through material and saw this stuff with Gary Thompson, the Chief of Staff to the Chief Constable. I think what you've got to do at your at the show is humanise what you're doing. I mean, in this case, this is what a £1.4 million project with the county, with Constabulary and Cotswolds Energy Group. That's a living, breathing. People can see it, and I think you need to start looking at that to get people's interest.
I think that's a good point. So Philip, you know, when given what you're going to be doing, doing this meet and greet and everything, I mean, is there an opportunity in there, and Adam, you know, when we think about how we do this with the MSMEs, is there an opportunity in there to ask them for their stories? Because some of them will obviously already be buying locally, you know, they've already been through this process. They'll have a local window cleaner, or they might have somebody, you know, a medium-sized business doing some. So is there an opportunity as part of those conversations to see if we can pull out some of those stories and share them?
Are you referring to speaking to the larger organisations? Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, my whole view on meeting these people would be to ask them for their shopping list.
Okay.
So I always feel that when you ask them for the shopping list, the what, the why, the where, the when, the who, the when, that you get this information and it leads on. So therefore, yes is the simple answer.
Okay, Ian.
What would work brilliantly, Jill, is some TikTok-y type, quite easily got phone interviews, very quick with quite a lot of people. You can show on the screen. That's the way of today. That's the way you get audience. And I think that would be good. You could get quite a lot of those as a package.
There's work going on the marketing strategy and stuff as one of the things that came out of the meeting the other week then. So Ian, from your point of view, you talked about engaging the local councils and we get that, but what can you see as being the biggest challenge to the project going forward?
Biggest challenge is you managing it, the management of it, the growth of it, and is this going to become a separate business? All those questions. I think it's a great idea. I'm surprised it hasn't been done anywhere else. I mean, Adam might correct me, it might be being done in other parts of the world. It's certainly done in sectors. It's something we're looking at in the forest for different sectors of business.
Yeah.
But I think the way I'm new to this. I love the idea. I think it's fantastic. But even in the work I see now, there's a lot of activity here. It's got to be pulled together. And I feel you've either got to go the way of it's a limited company setting up more or less a proper working day-to-day business, or you've got to try and hand it over. And I think that the councils and the county council would need to play a part in that.
Okay.
But they need to have a degree of ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, they're a part of the process, obviously, because obviously they've got a very formulaic way of doing their tenders and the tender portal and all the rest of it. So
and be aware that there's no money, but there's always money for a good idea.
Yeah. And
when you've got so many district councils, it's a matter of sharing. And I know you've looked at that in terms of contributions, but I think it would be, there is a Leadership Gloucestershire is the meeting of all the leaders, and there is going to be a new operation called the City Region Board, which all these leaders will be on. And I would have thought this is they're a prime target for Adam certainly to talk to.
Okay, fantastic. So Philip, from your point of view, in terms of, we're talking about local procurement, what happens around the edges of the county? So because if you're in Stow on the Wold, you're actually very, very close to the Oxfordshire border. So is Together Gloucestershire going to be precious about postcodes, or is it actually more flexible than that?
I would consider ourselves to be very flexible, and we're not precious on postcodes. The reality is we want everybody to make money and to have a future and a business.
Because Gloucestershire is such a strange shaped county that,
yeah,
if you're in North Gloucestershire, you're a long way from.
Oh no, I get that. I know that through business. I mean, I know if I did an exhibition in Bristol, I won't get business because I'm based in Gloucester. It's a mindset. They will go within a radius of where they are. And I think what we're trying to do is change that slightly.
Yeah. Ian, I'm conscious you need to drop off in a minute. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to?
Well, I was saying to Adam this morning, the county council already have a huge database. Now, it involves a company. It's called the Borehurst Research. Now, I don't exactly know what's on it, but it's virtually everything in terms of SMEs, large companies, apart from those companies that obviously don't pay business rates.
Yeah.
I think it would be worth, I know Dev has been on the this committee, and Dev is transferring to the county council. Yeah. It is worth seeing, and they've got a very good research guy who's going over from the LEP, what they've got at the moment, because there's an enormous amount that they will have. I think this will help you a great deal, and you can't do all of this at once. And my initial thought, and I stress it's an initial thought, why not look at a pilot sector here?
Yeah.
Something that you really know. I mean, particularly specialist engineering and manufacturing would be very good, where there's good buy-in already from people like Renishaw, FG Pumps, Spirex, people like this. You know, to try and look at that initially and go from there.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. So, Philip, do you just want to tell us a little bit more about what's happening at the show? And do you need me to tell you what time the things are?
Yeah, I would, please.
So they're both on the 28th of February. The panel discussion is at 11:45. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that's going to be?
That's going to be, well, Ian's going to be there, I'm going to be there, Adam's going to be there. I believe it's going to be chaired by Sam from the FSB, and it's going to be more of a general party.
And there's Clare Thayers on it as well, I think.
That's right. Sorry, I knew there was missing someone. Sorry, yes, thank you. And again, it's going to be more rounded view, more discussion about Together Gloucester and what it will bring to the county of Gloucester.
Yeah, in the afternoon at 2:15, there's a forum. So is that the opportunity for people to come and...
Yes, come and have a chat, put their views across.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
It's open.
Has anybody got any questions from the floor? Adam, is there anything else you want to add while we're talking about TG? You're on mute.
Yeah. Not too much more, to be fair. At the end of the day, like we're at that weird time of trying to put we're well over 18 months in, but we're trying to develop this but not telling everybody while not telling everybody, because which is a bit of a predicament. But like I say, we're just quite key that we can develop the portal and actually make sure that it's there for when, so we can populate it. I really like Ian's idea of actually trialing it in one sector, and I think that's something worth expanding on. But yeah, just to pick up a couple of things that which Ian suggested is that we've, to underpin all this, a limited company has been set up. So and funny enough, we've actually put personal money into it because we believe it in that much. But just so when funds come in, that there is a legitimate place for it to be, that it's not going into, for want of a better expression, a random bank account. So yeah, we are trying to making sure that everything from a governance point of view is set there for the foundations, because we appreciate that whether the funding's coming from public or private sector, it needs to be done right. So yeah, there's some bits there which are underpinning everything. So hopefully it's one of those projects which are getting right first time. And just very secondly, one of the things which Ian said is that it doesn't seem to have been done anywhere in terms of all the elements that we've been doing anywhere in the UK. After 18 months, I can see why. It's a big old beast. So, but yeah, but the motivation from everybody and the enthusiasm we get after is not diminished. So that's what's driving us forward, pretty much. So yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you very much indeed, Ian. Good to see you. We'll see you.
Can I just say something before I go? What would be the best story to come out of Feb 28th? If I was writing the story,
that's a good question.
What have you got? You've got, this is a unique operation in the UK. Also have this guy, Gary Thompson, standing up and saying, police have done this, so you need to humanise the thing, perhaps have a couple of other people as well. Bit of some short video stuff, the sort of thing that TV could be involved in advance, looking at a company. We've tried for ages to get it. You've got a package there that someone like Dave Harvey of Points West, the business editor, would go for.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Thanks, Ian.
Okay.
Thanks, Ian.
Ian,
Is in.
Okay.
cheers.
Thank you.
So
Bye.
questions from the floor. There were talking about whether this was unique or not. There was a sort of take on this done in Kingston, but that was actually funded by the City of London University, so it didn't last very long. And I believe there's somewhere in Surrey that has it's almost like a traders association. So those are the only ones that we've managed to find when we've been looking around. So has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask before I turn off the recording?
Could I just add one thing?
Of course.
Please? Yeah. By the way, you now know what I look like. I'll be there, so feel free to come up and talk to me. I'm more than happy to have a chat about it.
Fantastic. Any questions from anybody?
I had one observation, Jill.
Yep.
I think for a lot of people involved in procurement chains, I mean, procurement and supply chains can scare the heck out of people who haven't been involved with them at a corporate level before. They can see these huge, great big, invitations to tender and everything like that and think, why would they want to hear from a company of my size? So I think potentially part of this, there's an education package that goes along with it.
Yeah, there's a training framework that I've put together that does all of that. So.
To explain to the SMEs who are all notoriously time poor, they have people in various different roles, plate spinning, knowing that if they do this, there is potentially a real benefit at the end, rather than just thinking, right, if I do this, there's a 1 in 50 chance I might get into it. And to explain to people that, there is a real interest and there is a real push to get businesses of their size involved in this supply chain network within Gloucester, because a lot of people wouldn't have thought of it before.
No, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.